Well, not long after the Farmers' Day event, which was held in the country, some members of some political parties have urged the government to pump more money into agriculture. We've seen members from the APC, the NDC, the CPP, and the PPP all requesting the government of Ghana to do more to finance agriculture for the nation. Now, they have done this because they want the government to enhance food security in the nation and to create more jobs for the citizens, especially the youth. Now, one of the parties was the APC, which is the All People's Congress, one of these parties that you know, in the nation. Well, they as well as other parties like the NDC, which is the National Democratic Congress, the PPP, which is the Progressive People's Party, and the CPP, which is the Convention People's Party, have had some separate interviews to speak on how government is doing in areas of agriculture and how much more the government can do to make things better. Um, they have seen that agriculture plays a crucial role in contributing to socio-economic development. Therefore, there's the need for much more effort to be made to expand this sector. Now, when we even listen to what the founder of the APC was saying, that's Mr. Hassan Ayariga, who was also very, very known for his inputs in agriculture. Even politics aside, this is one person who has been very, very, very influential in the areas of agriculture, um, with his own personal businesses and the like. He has appealed to the government to increase, the investment opportunities and the distribution of, certain things in agriculture. Things like subsidized, fertilizers, seedlings, and pesticides, as well as other necessary things that these farmers would need to keep their crops functional till the day of harvest. Mr. Ayaraga said that although these farmers were the backbone of the country, they shouldn't, be only celebrated on Farmers Day and like the one which will be coming in the near future on Fishers Day, but also the government should, make some programs where they would be, supporting them during the year, so that the input they will put, the input that they would give out during the year would show at the end of the year when they are being awarded. Instead of them waiting for the end of the year before they give them awards, why wouldn't they give them what they need during the year, so that by the time even the year ends, they would see what their input has accumulated and has profited these farmers. So Mr. Yaruga urged the government, to invest in the construction of also warehouses and silos, so that when these farmers produce their food, they have the right place to store them and store them under the right conditions. Especially when you look at the grains, things like corn and the rest, we'll be able to store them in large quantities. And when there's available space for storage, we are sure that our food will be secure. This will help, reduce the post-harvest losses that many farmers record at the end of the year when they are done with their farming activities. Well, we hope their points will be noted, and all these things that he has been requesting for, like the local fertilizer producers needing support so that they could meet the needs of these farmers, would be attended to. So Mr. Hassan Ayariga has said his part. Now let's go to the PPP and see what they also have urged. Now, for those of you who would like to know, the PPP had a statement, from their communications director, the young man, Mr. Felix Mante. He, very much brought to light some of their interests with regards to the agric sector. He was urging the government to address some problems facing farmers, like the access, to some financial benefits and the cost of credit. He was also requiring the government, asking the government to do something with regards to access to agricultural lands. Access to agricultural lands. There are people who cannot access the right agricultural lands because they are just not in that space, and they don't have those powers that will be needed to get them. So he spoke also about that. And then also the PPP also addressed some cost with regards to the farming and availability of farm inputs, as well as accessing markets after the harvest. This was a very, very key point that we have been even looking at in the past. There are some farmers who cannot access these markets because the roads from their farms to those markets are very poor. When you look at poor road networks to farms, and even all of these difficulties that they have to go through to move their harvest, from the farms to the market, you understand why sometimes farming is discouraging to some people. So Mr. Felix Mante also addressed those issues, as well as the issues of pricing, the way farmers are affected by the different prices that are set in place by the pricing committees in the countries. His hope is that the government would use the purchasing power that they have to sort of create a market for Ghanaian farmers and fishermen that will help them make the most out of their farming activities, and also looking at ensuring that some government functions would be spearheaded and focused on Ghanaian grown foods only, so that we sort of have the right things in our country first before looking at getting things from elsewhere. And when we do it this way, we would be so rich in what we have that we would be making even more by giving it out to our neighboring countries. So he's looking at this way, these methods as the best ways to pay tribute to these Ghanaian farmers and help them to be on their feet, and to make the most of all the hard work they put in on their farms. Then let's go to the CPP. Let's reserve the NDC for last. Let's go to the CPP. The General Secretary of the CPP, Mrs. Nana Ya Achempem Jantua, also had her say with regards to the agricultural sector and what she felt was going to be beneficial to farmers and to the agricultural sector as a whole. She was asking that the government to support farmers with incentives and more of these inputs. For her, she was looking more on how there have been tons of farm produce going to waste on farms, and as much as many people touched on those issues, she felt more passionate about them. So she was speaking to the government to make some conditions very steady and functional, so that even those farmers who don't have storage facilities can sort of find places where they can go and store their produce, where who knows, maybe governments can subsidize, find some ways to produce such storage facilities for them at a very good rate, price or something. Just they should just have a place to put their produce so that these things that are going to waste would not go to waste. I mean, it would be better if a farmer can save 1,000 grains of maize and not get them to waste. If I am a farmer who knows I don't have a place to store my maize produce, I would rather pay small amounts of money and save them and then later sell them and make profit from them than let them all go to waste, because that one would be wasting more money than the one that I'll put into into a storage facility. That's if the government puts one in place, and if the government is that's well poised to even do better, there could be some storage facilities that would be for free. At least you just bring something very little or very 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 minimum, and then you can store an amount of your produce, and this would do a lot. I mean, it could even create some job opportunities for some people. So Nana Ya Achempim Jantua, the secretary of the CBB, spoke on these issues. She was also touching on some of the issues that Mr. Felix spoke about the roads leading to the farms, which she claimed were very deplorable, to the extent that some farmers that she knew of were unable to move their produce to the market. And because of this, there was a great loss. Sometimes she goes to them and then she's smelling all these rotten tomatoes and all these products that have gone bad because there's no place to keep them. So, according to her, when their government was in power back some years ago, when the CBB government, under President Nkrumah, they saw these things in the past, and that was the reason why they built some of these factories at that time close to some farmlands, and also created great big silos and all of those things in those times. The only unfortunate thing was that at that time Ghana was not really ready to use them, but we've seen the light in what he was doing now, and now when we look back, we see that those factories that were built were in the right direction. It's just that it seemed the timing at that time was not too accurate. So they were in a loop, and most of them were close to farming, communities, and these, produce that would have been going to waste, could be manufactured and tend to finished products, as long as they could be stored in some of these, factories and storage facilities that Kwame Nkrumah had built and was continuing to build till he was no more in power. So according to her, her government have these ideas at heart compared to other political parties. And she says that farmers should not only be celebrated in one day out of these 365 days that we have in a year, but they should be celebrated most often than not, because at the end of the year, one winner will get a house and some scholarships offered to their children, but that's it. But what happens to the other farmers? It shouldn't be about the best farmer only, it should be about all farmers in general, because the best farmer is not the only farmer in the nation. The best farmer does his part, but apart from the best farmer, there are others who also contribute to agriculture in the sector. And then let's go to the main opposition party, the NDC. The Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Mr. Peter Boma, he also said that they were hoping that the government will continue to improve their efforts towards making farming businesses more attractive for the youth. They were looking at how the youth will venture into the agriculture sector, and when he looked at some of the challenges facing the sector, he was sure that farmers and fishers were most likely going to lose hope if they were not given some support from the government. According to him, they knew some of the difficulties that these farmers were going through, and they claimed that the government were not doing enough. And the NDC claims the government is not doing enough to make the farmers very appreciated with all their work and all the profits that they are bringing to the country. So he claims that government can do better, and they even spoke about the poultry industry, where some fowls have many fowls, thousands of fowls have been lost because government, was not very instrumental in some areas and allowed importation of eggs and all of these things that we were hearing about the poultry farm and their feed being expensive because of all this trouble that was around their poultry feed and all of that. So as you are seeing, he also added that maize is becoming expensive as the days go by, and fertilizer also, which is needed to grow these products, are also becoming very expensive. So he's asking the government, to do what it can to pump more money in that sector and to make things better. Okay, so thank you for listening. You can leave your comments in the section below and let us know what you feel about these political parties and their urging of the government to do more for agriculture. Have a nice day.